Alejandra Otero, Andrew Plant, Leanne, Linacre, and Craig Riggs. And for the introduction, we also will show you a brief little video. Thank you very much.
Admissions to enrollment and anything in between, increasingly sophisticated digital tools are available in every step of the international student recruitment funnel and beyond. They provide revolutionary opportunities to improve efficiency, increase quality, create more transparency, and reduce cost and time. And it doesn't end there. Artificial intelligence is now making it possible to automate different stages in the recruitment process, in part or in full.
But what about the balance between authentic and artificial? The balance between human involvement and automation?
This is one of the main themes at ICEF Digital, and therefore we bring you, in partnership with Lead 50/50, this panel discussion titled Balancing Automation with Authenticity, Understanding the Human Factor in Digital Student Recruitment.
This session will be moderated by ICEF Monitors Editor-in-Chief Craig Riggs, together with Alejandra Otero, founder and CEO of geNEOus, Leanne Linacre, CEO and co-founder of Lead 50/50, and Andrew Plant, Senior Business Development Director at QS Quacquarelli Symonds.
Fantastic. Well, hello everybody, and I'm Craig Riggs, the editor of ICEF Monitor. It's my pleasure to introduce our next panel this afternoon, and we have an outstanding panel for you and a fascinating question to explore, balancing automation with authenticity and the human factor in digital student recruitment. We're very proud to present this session in partnership with Lead 50/50. As we've been hearing all day, there's a very large field of digital tools available to us and to the students that we serve, tools that make it easier for students to explore study abroad options, engage with institutions and counselors, and tools that make it easier for us to engage with students across the entire process, from their early stage of research for study abroad to inquiry and seeking more information, to admissions, and eventually to enrollment. And of course, that toolkit is getting larger all the time, providing us with game-changing opportunities to improve efficiency, increase quality of service, create more transparency, reduce cost and response times, and automate some of parts of that recruitment process, as we're going to start to unpack today. As the title of our session reflects, the question we're going to grapple with for the next 44 minutes is how we balance some of that automation and technology-driven aspects of recruitment with the need for human touch, personal connection, authenticity, and individual attention that only a dedicated international admissions professional or advisor or other colleague can provide. And I think perhaps that's the place for us to pause and to ask you a question. We're going to step away from the whole experience for a moment and experiment with a word cloud. And the question that we would like you to answer, with just one word if you would please, is what is the true and indispensable human factor in student recruitment? And you can answer that by, everyone now knows the drill, step over to slido.com and use, if you haven't already, the code ICEF Digital. That will get you in, and it will allow us to start to assemble a word cloud in front of your very eyes. And as that's happening, let me introduce you to the outstanding panel that we have for this discussion this afternoon. We have Alejandra with us, of course, who is the founder and CEO of geNEOus, which is a consultancy offering training and advisory services in digital recruitment and technology to clients across the sector. And what I want to say about this panel is that each has a really interesting and valuable perspective on the question. I think we've got a great group for this discussion. So Alejandra has that consulting perspective and is kind of a subject specialist in technology and digital recruitment. Then we have Leanne, who is the director and owner of Lila, a noted college in the UK. And she has that frontline perspective as someone who's in supporting her staff and in touch with students that are going through the journey that we're going to be focused on today. And then of course we have Andrew, who is with QS. And you may know QS from their rankings and other important insights and research that they provide in the industry. But what you may not be as aware is that they also play a very direct role in supporting recruitment for university clients. And quite a good number of them indeed, so much so that it gives Andrew and his colleagues a very interesting aggregated view of that student journey, and backed by a lot of the original research that QS does as well. So Andrew has a lot of fantastic insights to share with us this afternoon as well. And the word cloud is, some real obvious points of emphasis there in the word cloud already. We'll just let that unfold a little bit more, a minute or two more. If you haven't had a chance to make your addition as yet, please do. But we are talking today about striking the right balance between the use of technology and human attention and care in supporting international students. And just to set the frame for that discussion a little bit, I want to say clearly that we're taking a very broad view of technology for this discussion. So we're including tools relating to project management, to CRM systems, digital communications channels, and of course AI, which has been front and center for much of the day today. And I want to add as well that we are focused on enrollment management in this session, where the student journey can be understood in different ways. For us, we're concerned with everything that happens from the point that at which the student begins planning or researching for study abroad, and then the point at which they actually begin their studies, right? So here we have our word cloud. The clear leaders are empathy, trust, connection, emotion, and then we have another of other important entries there as well: honesty, personalization, authenticity, right? These are all, I mean, I think nobody can be surprised by these responses. It's reassuring to see those coming through loud and clear. This is the essence of, in international education, we've always understood that this is, the experience of study abroad and supporting students of study abroad is one that is based in experience and in relationships. And so I think no surprise to see those types of factors coming through loud and clear. Before we move on to the panel, if we could just switch to the slides for a moment, please. I just want to acknowledge some important aspects of the context for today's discussion. I think first, there's no mistaking the fact that competition in international student recruitment is increasing all the time. There are more institutions and schools in more destinations, all trying to recruit more students for more sending markets than ever before. And it's very clear in our own experience and in the research available to us that the average student today applies to a larger number of institutions, often in more than one destination, than typically has been the case. So, and we know that those students come with high expectations. They expect prompt responses and effective follow-ups. And we also know that many of us struggle with that, right? Just keeping up with that volume. So the stakes are high. We are all trying to attract the best and brightest students, especially those that are best fit for our institutions and schools. They expect a lot from us. And that starts with how we introduce ourselves and how we engage with them throughout that inquiry and enrollment process. So with that as a bit of a backdrop to get us started, let me wander across stage, and we'll just start our discussion with the group. And I think the place to start is with just reflecting on the student journey itself. We talk a lot about it. It's a term that we throw around. It means different things to different people. And I think we have an opportunity to be more concrete about it here today. This is a subject, and Alejandra, maybe you could start us on this, because here, we'll put up a little graphic of the student journey to help us along. But this is something we drew from the new issue of the ICEF Insights magazine that's being released this week here in Berlin. You can certainly find a copy as you move around the venue. But this is an article actually that Alejandra contributed a lot to in terms of helping us develop a better understanding of how the student journey works. I know it's something you're thinking a lot about. In fact, she's also giving a workshop on this very subject, a 3-hour workshop actually tomorrow. And so while it's all fresh in your mind, maybe can you just walk us through this aspect of the student journey?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Greg. So this is a student journey. It can have many different ways, right? Here we see serpent-shaped student journey, but as we look at different models, it can also be a linear one. It can be seen as a circle. There's many different models to look at it from a student journey perspective. But this is, it's student-centered, but there are different stakeholders in this student journey mapping process. So we have the institutions on the one side, and then we have, for example, at ICEF, a lot of agents also on the other side. So in this triangle, what are those emotions that we make feel to these three types of stakeholders, for example? How can we balance all of these emotions, priorities, and outcomes throughout different processes of the journey? So we may start from the marketing side, communications, recruitment, towards enrollment. But does it end there? Not at all. It might end there for some team members within a specific institution. But if we look at that same journey from the agent side, for example, we have marketing, then sales or counseling, we have also pre-departure, visa guidance, etc., etc. Now, what happens from the student side? There's so much information out there, so many different touch points. Well, let's first start by mapping those out. And this is the process of the student journey. Then comes the question of how can we optimize it, right? And of course, we'll talk about it a lot, about technology, but also the human factor, and at which point of this journey should we balance and make sure that the human is equally important and the technology can support, complement this process to enhance the satisfaction, retention, and enrollment levels. So this can be, at a glance, very quickly, an enrollment management perspective of the student journey, but let's definitely not forget also that it doesn't stop there. It's not a one-time event, and we should also be looking at this from a re-enrollment perspective, because those students who already enrolled once hopefully can also become students that re-enroll in your process. And this is something that a well-mapped student journey process enables you to have.
Fantastic. Okay, so that's a great primer on our context for today. So maybe let's do a little problem definition. Leanne, maybe I can turn to you at this point and just ask, like, where are for institutions, for schools, for agents that are serving students throughout this process, like, where are the pain points? Where are the trouble spots?
So I think the trouble spots from my perspective as a school owner is that you can be communicated with in lots of different ways, and I'm sure it's the same for the agents as well, and trying to keep on top of whether students are contacting you through email, Instagram messaging, or WhatsApp. Lots of different ways of getting in touch. It can be really overwhelming, the different ways of respond. Not always, you can coach your team, but they don't always respond with the same levels of quality because they're busy and they're jumping from one, from live chat to this to the other. So I think this is where like a really slick automated process or AI can be really beneficial and can sort of streamline and help with efficiencies. And as a business owner, it's something that you're always looking at. Costs are rising, your tuition fees are being squeezed, so anything you can do to improve the journey of the student without taking on more staff is brilliant. However, I do worry about the biases that might creep in, and I think it's really important that there's human touch points as well, at the really crucial points, and students are aware of when they're being in contact with automation and when they're talking to a real human being. And I think if we can navigate that and manage the necessary technology part of it, but keep in mind the biases that might really skew the student body or the student experience, then that's the best outcome.
It sounds like that challenge that you're thinking of first and foremost is at the start of that process.
Yeah.
Like not quite the start, but with the point at which the student makes an inquiry and just getting a response out quickly, getting a consistent and effective response out. Yeah.
And I think it's sometimes it's students, for me, most of the time it's agents as well. So the agents are communicating in lots of different ways, and they're no doubt being communicated with in lots of different ways. So it's just making sure that approach is consistent so that the agents can cope with the volume and then you in turn can cope as well.
Yeah. What about from your perspective, Andrew? You're seeing it across a large field of institutions, but where do you see the real challenges are there?
Well, first of all, I want to say hello, Berlin. This is my first time here, and I'm incredibly excited to be here. So thank you very much for inviting me. We're all familiar with the enrollment funnel, I guess you call it, and it starts with inquiries at the top for us where students become visible when they first make that inquiry, or where an agent makes an inquiry on their behalf. And often the problems that Leanne was describing there are prevalent, but also the sort of triage of quality within quantity. That's really, really important for a lot of our clients. And then as you move down into the application stage, the problems seem to be around turnaround time, mostly because of manual processing. And actually, really interestingly, we survey students, we do something called the International Student Survey. It's had about 1 million respondents of pre-enrolled students, so it's no small thing, about 165,000 respondents this year. And when you ask them about turnaround time, of course, I mean, you may have noticed that students are becoming less and less patient these days. They really, really want a turnaround time to be quite quick, quite fast. And they actually relate that to the quality of your teaching and your reputation. So the impact of that process is not just about, can I get a result, can I get some certainty, but it also impacts on your reputation. And then as you go past that, you get to the enrollment stage, and there the problems that we see are conversion in terms of out-competing your competitors, trying to get the right information to students at the right time, with all of those things that were on that lovely word cloud, particularly empathy. I love the fact that that came top. And then as you get towards the bottom, sorry, I missed out offers. That's the conversion part. And then as you get through to enrollments at the bottom, you're looking at things like late attrition because of poor processes. Students just aren't getting over the line because they can't get through whatever it is, the financial barrier or the process that's just standing in the way, which, all of these things can be really helped with technology.
All right. So you're describing, there's a lot of factors there. So responsiveness, the kind of transparency of the process for the student, sort of anticipating any challenges that they might have, making sure they're well supported throughout that entire path, right? Because you're sitting on someone's survey data, I have to ask you about turnaround. What does the ISS say about turnaround times? What are student expectations?
Yeah, so the majority of students, what their applicants, so inquiry, let's start with inquiry. They expect a full response to their inquiry within 24 hours. They want it acknowledged within hours, which obviously automation comes into play there, and I'd be surprised if anybody doesn't have, a large institution doesn't have automated responses, that kind of thing. But a full response to their inquiry within a day, and then for applications, the majority of them want an application turned around within a week. I often get somebody in the audience saying, well, what about our reputation? Surely we should be holding back a little bit, and it makes us look more prestigious, that we're considering them more. And I've yet to meet a student that doesn't want to know the outcome of their application as soon as possible. They are not taking that into consideration.
Students all around the world going, oh, look at that prestige. It's taking forever.
I don't think there is a sweet spot there. I think if you get that response out as quickly as possible, you're just giving the human on the end of that more certainty on their buying journey and their future.
I think there's a lot of truth in that, and the stakes are only getting higher in that respect. I used to work for a sort of mid-sized university in Canada, and one of the smartest things we ever did was set a service standard for undergraduate admissions that they were processed within 2 working days. And I can't tell you how many students said exactly that the reason they had applied to multiple institutions, the reason they chose that one was because they got the response first, right? It was as simple as that.
Yeah, and selfishly for an institution, you'll get a lot fewer inquiries saying, where the hell is my application?
Right.
If you get the application results.
Less of a customer service load.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, what about we've nodded, I think, in a couple of ways at where technology fits in, but just to know, just for the group, what are the obvious places where technology can smooth that out for students and for institutions that are trying to recruit them?
Yeah, you start.
So for me, without a doubt, the CRM is the central component where all automations, but also the collaboration with the team can have the best possible outcome. And so a lot of times institutions come to us saying, oh, I need more leads. And the big majority of the times, we actually get to say, are you sure you need more leads, or do you need better processes? And those better processes usually go through that piece of technology being the CRM. And the CRM can be fully automated, of course, but also personalized for many different stakeholders. So everyone is happy in the equation, and it's about a matter of understanding where is it that CRM can also support. You were talking about response times. What if we stop thinking that the human added value has to start from the very, very, very beginning and be throughout the whole funnel all the time available with the expectations of the current generation. And if we move forward, Generation Alpha is even going to be more demanding. So how on earth can humans be there on evenings, weekends, sick days, holidays, everywhere for everyone, whenever they expect it, at their fingertips, in social media, on landing pages, everywhere around? It's humanly impossible. And that's where the technology can support, not replace, but support humans, in the sense that if a CRM is well crafted and well configured, it can support the humans in identifying earlier on which of those potential students are the right fit as well for your institution, and therefore not focusing on everyone, but actually on the ones that you can also serve better, because it's not one size fits all. So in my opinion, that's the central component of the technology around enrollment management, is a well crafted CRM.
Okay. So I think we have I think you've just given us a great idea for like a commemorative T-shirt for ICEF Digital next year, which is just one that says "Support the Humans." So can you just define, like real quick, just define CRM for us? Like, what is a CRM system?
So yeah, customer relationship management system. So it's basically, if you look at it from a database perspective, which is already a start, because many institutions say they have a CRM, but actually they use it to handle their data or to store their data. That's a start, but that's not a CRM to its full potential. So an actual CRM is a tool system that stores data, but also automates or enables you to automate every single element in the process, from creating workflows to personalize the whole experience. If A happens, then trigger B. So for example, if a potential student clicks on a button in an email, then send this other video, for example, to them. All of that can be mapped out, but also that CRM enables your internal team to capitalize on efficiencies as they actually get internal notifications, reminders whenever something needs to be done from their end, a set of tasks that they can actually do to walk the students, the right potential students, down the funnel. And this helps, again, all the tech tools and the tech hack behind it can also integrate with other applications from the sources, so we call it portals, the different digital marketing campaign tools that you use. Any incoming source for lead generation can be integrated, measured, tracked in a CRM, and you can generate reports for data-driven decisions to be actually analyzed and taken on by the human teams. And this is what can be used to give a better support to potential students. So in a general word, a CRM is what you need, basically.
Okay. So CRM is like, you can understand it to be an essential building block for getting some automation into, and just better, more efficient process into that, managing that student journey. Anything you would add to that?
Well, yeah, just from a statistical point of view, with about 2% of inquiries convert broadly across certainly the clients that we work with, where we're acting on their behalf to enrol students. And about 25% of offers enroll. But about half of all inbound communication from the students comes out of ours. So if you don't have something to be able to answer those inquiries as quickly as possible and deal with those students and give them a student journey that has less scratches and bruises and barriers and waiting. If you have something that operates out of hours, then you're already ahead of people. And at conferences like this, everybody's had very bad experiences with chatbots. We all hate chatbots. Sorry, chatbot people. But if you have them in place, they allow students to navigate. They allow them to get some of the information they need. You log that inquiry and get it answered. So just having that in place as something out of hours that is enabled by technology will make a massive difference to your students and to your success.
Yeah, I would agree with both. I think having some kind of automated response to pick up out of hours and then a good, great CRM in place can do that initial heavy lifting and make sure that everybody gets an inquiry. The inquiries are to some extent the same kind of quality, and then it filters out the students that are right for your institution. And I think where the human needs to come back in is when you are counselling for particular courses, because as human beings we've all got inherent biases, and we are programming these systems to give advice to students or to agents on behalf of our students, and there's a real danger that students from certain destinations, from certain socioeconomic backgrounds or different genders can be offered courses that are, the technology thinks they are looking for. Somebody on the track and trace panel earlier made the point that students from India are very different from students from the US, and they come from different backgrounds, different budgets, for example, and while that's widely true, it would be wrong to assume that everyone from India wants the same course, or all women are looking for education or healthcare or arts-based courses. So I think you can get reports on this kind of thing, but without the human overview of the reports and looking at the data, you're in danger of creating kind of a very homogenous student bodies when we're all looking for diversity, and a diverse student body is probably the best for your institution, no matter how big or small you are. And I just think that without the human touch there, it's something we're in danger of being a victim of.
So you're concerned about sort of any kind of bias that would be introduced, like in an automated system that could misdirect a student or discourage a student in some way?
Yeah, and it's not beyond the realms of possibility. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, a TED AI podcast with a woman called Hilke Schellman. She's written a book called The Algorithm, and it's about using algorithms in recruitment. And a huge recruiter had noticed that the algorithm was biased towards men called Thomas, because in one particular organisation, a handful of Thomases had been very successful. So the algorithm was putting forward CVs at an exponential rate from people called Thomas, and poor old Tabitha is not getting a look in because Thomases are presumed to be more successful. So it happens, and without a human being looking at that, you're not going to be able to mitigate it.
Right. So that's a good caution for us, for sure. And maybe a segue to the balance question that we're kind of walking around so far in the discussion. Because we're talking about, through CRM or other tools, like automating that initial response to students so they get especially working across time zones, as you're saying, Andrew, like getting a timely response back out. By the way, this panel, I think, deserves a special recognition for going this far without once mentioning AI. But I'll do it now. Yeah. Use the full toolkit. But there was a really interesting example given this morning of an AI tool that obviously responds across time, responds immediately to students, but also responds in multiple languages. Like there are layers of improvement here that we can imagine through the use of some of those tools. But the Thomas example is a telling one. So good for you if you're Thomas and bad if you're not. So if we're thinking about our particular context of helping students along that path towards enrollment, how do we balance that automation with that personal touch with where do the humans come back in, right? Or actually, sorry, I'll just ask it in that way first, and then we'll dig in a bit. Do you want to have a go?
Yeah, for me, it's a matter again a balance between quality and quantity, and so we need to start thinking. Do we want to have, this applies to all stakeholder times, do we want to have many potential students, many agents, but in reality they're not the right fit for the institution? But also, from going back to the funnel also, at the very beginning, if you have a lot of quantity rather than a good quality, and you don't have solid CRM system, for example, through lead scoring techniques and lead nurturing processes, so how can you do everything, right? That's the main question. And where should you focus your technology efforts to be combined by the human? And in my opinion, it's a matter of helping or getting more help from technology at the beginning in a certain way. So for example, in replying in the places where you're not. So 1 out of 4 inquiries on social media channels, for example, are actually not receiving any response. So why is that? It's because the admission staff or recruitment staff can't be everywhere, right? They have a lot of things to do. They have to travel, they have to respond on their emails, they have to be on socials, they have to be everywhere. So already a tool that can be integrated with the CRM, but I'm going to use the word AI now. AI based, for example, an AI tool that is integrated in on Instagram, for example, or on social media to handle these very initial questions. So at that very initial stage is already going to help the humans to focus on the right students. But as we go through the funnel as well, the word empathy, which came really high on that word cloud, it's not surprising at all, because that's where the humans actually need to understand that this is our added value. The tool can do work for me so that I can get more time to focus less on administrative tasks and actually be there for the potential student, for that relationship to be built with institutions, and that's my focus. But it doesn't mean that as we go down the funnel, we need to ditch technology. No, we need to use it in different ways. So for example, post-application, technology can also serve with integrations, for example, to generate automated offer letters, to integrate also financial payments in the funnel. And of course, technology can serve with a set of rules, but the human is very much still and forever needed for exceptions handling. So I believe in that sense, it's a good balance to have to make sure that everyone has a role at the different stages throughout the funnel and the journey.
There's so much here. I feel like we could stop on each of your responses and kind of dig in. Like I'm watching the clock tick down alarmingly quickly. So this is maybe a good time for us to trigger the question roll on Slido. Patrick, if you want to kick that in any time. And just for everyone in the audience, you can return to Slido and ask your questions, and people that are watching online, of course, can ask through the same channel. And we'll take some time before the end of the session to field those questions, at least in as much as we can with the time available. But you referred quickly to lead scoring, and I felt, Andrew, like you were saying something similar earlier in terms of, there's all this activity, large volumes of inquiries coming in at the top of that enrollment funnel. And there's a huge question there about how you kind of qualify those prospects and identify those that are best fit for your institution or school. And I wonder if you could say a little more about that and where sort of technology and human, action interact there.
Yeah, I mean, they're just tools, aren't they? And the saying is that a poor workman blames his tools, and I think we're always looking for the next new shiny thing. And I went into my local car garage recently, and the guy in there was typing up the invoice, and he was typing it on an electric typewriter. And I said to him, what are you doing? Why are you still using that? Why haven't you got a computer to do this for you? And he looked up at me as if I was stupid. And he said, well, I don't need one. You know, to do that job, he didn't need to buy a MacBook, buy a printer, buy all the ink for the printer, do all that. That did the job that he needed to. He needed invoices printed out for each client. He used them in their car. And it's the same for us. I love that journey that we had at the beginning there, where you see the roadmap for the students. And if you plot against that the journey that you need and the goals that the journey that the student needs and the goals that you have along that journey, then you can start to think about how tech can enable that. At the beginning of that, answering your question around inquiries, very much, you know, as we were discussing just then, a CRM can play a huge role in dealing with a lot of information and being able to score those students so that you can create an efficient workflow. And at that point, that's what you need. It's less about the very nuanced detail that you might need further down the funnel for that particular hyper-personalised student that's very serious about your institution, and much more about how you handle the workflows yourself to get the responses out that you know are going to be the same over and over again. So that's where, you know, something like a CRM can really, really help you.
Yeah. So we're not only talking about technology tools to provide that sort of quick and effective response to initial inquiry, but also to help us kind of identify the most promising candidates, like within that pool. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we've got about 10 minutes left, a little more, and the questions are starting to stack up. So I think let's have a go at a couple of them. And good job on whoever the first questioner was here, because that's a good provocative question to start us off with. This audience member says AI will also be able to develop empathy. Don't you think the role of humans is decreasing, and do we need to be honest about it? Let's start there. Is the important role of is that human factor important still because of limitations in technology, or will it always be important? Is maybe another way to answer that question.
Will AI be able to develop true empathy, or is it just a simulation of it, surely? And it only is as empathetic as the people that have programmed it, so it's a direct reflection of their own biases and the way they construe empathy.
Yeah. Or the way it's been trained.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a great question. I don't know if anybody want to add to that. It has a vaguely apocalyptic feel to it.
It is existential, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm conflicted myself in the work that we do, because so much of it is process-led, and so much of it is similar. And there are millions and millions of students that are going through different but very, very similar journeys. And yeah, a machine can learn that and mimic it and simulate the responses that we are making at scale. So there is less and less of a human factor, I guess, but our data sees through that from the surveys that we have. We know that 68% of international students that are interested in studying abroad, they want to speak to somebody in their own language. Of course, AI can do that. But then 78%, once they've made contact, they want to speak to the same person over again. So they've made that bond, that emotional bond with another human, even if it's on the phone or whatever. And they want to reach that person again. The only way you can actually enable that, by the way, for them to reach the same advisor again, is through technology. You need to have something in place that identifies the student and identifies the advisor and brings them back together again. So there are elements to this that you can't replace through technology, and that is very much that a human-to-human experience, and you have to bring that in at the right times.
That rings true to me. I don't think it's just a conceit to think that will always be important. I think I think there is the nature of the thing, as you that's a very telling indicator, actually, that students develop that attachment quickly with the person who's helping them. And it's when we're talking about study abroad in particular, it's just such a high involvement decision. It's such a big choice that student and their family is making. And so the stakes feel uncomfortably high to rely strictly on an automated process or an AI agent or something.
I had another one of the panels this morning, so which shows I was listening and paying
Well done, you.
attention. Yeah, they've been brilliant, by the way, really interesting. Somebody made a comment that when they've surveyed students after they have been either talking to a chatbot or an actual human, they feel 4 times happier when they know that they've had an interaction with a human being. And that kind of feel-good factor is really important because, you know, you're saying about the image and reputation on your university and the speed of response. Well, also, you know, the fact that the students feel good having had an interaction with an actual person. I know we can't respond to everything, be everywhere all at the same time on all different channels, but I do think it's important to remember that does have a beneficial impact.
And also, you know, business impact in terms of success.
Yeah.
If we reach somebody on the phone, remember that student's talking to you on the phone, but if you can reach a student on the phone, they're almost twice as likely to convert. If you reach them on live chat, 3.5 times more likely to convert. But it's on their terms as well. You need to be on their platforms in their native environments. And if you contact them on multiple platforms, those students are much, much more likely to convert than just a single platform like email.
I think it's also a combination of 2 main words, which both were on the cloud there, which were, empathy, but empathy combined with trust as well. And I think that's the big difference because, I was recently delivering a workshop where we actually got to bring Generation Alpha kids on stage to ask several questions about how they would be looking to study in the near future. FYI, the oldest ones in 3 to 4 year times, they're already knocking at your in-person or virtual doors. And so we were actually asking them about technology, and that was one of the points that was quite important. They are always connected through digital devices, they're always on, but the trust component is what really made them to see and talk with a human, because they need to make sure that whatever they're seeing is true, and they have been and are being bombarded by so much information that it's those empathetic and real conversations that were for them quite important to decide further on to what kind of studies they would want to have. So I think it's even for that generation, it's already starting to pick up as of something, this is the main component that they need, which is the sum of empathy and trust.
Yeah, I mean, I think that really rings true, doesn't it? And there's, I mean, another question is asking, I think pointing us to another important issue, which is just, you know, do we see a difference in the role of technology or the role of people, whether we're talking about like thinking more in terms of like in-person versus digital recruitment? And it is true, certainly, that we rely more on digital channels for recruitment these days. But I feel like you've already answered that question in the sense that there are ways in which you can establish connection with prospective students. Like your example, Andrew, of you're sitting on data that says students quickly develop those attachments and they want to be supported by the same advisor, right? That's a personal connection that is formed at an early stage and needs to be supported, perhaps by technology that maintains that match and ensures that that connection can continue. And also by talking about like serving students over the phone even, which is not quite in person, but they're still looking to talk to somebody, right, as they're making a huge decision. So probably there are some differences there, and there still is obviously a role for in-person recruitment, whether that's on the phone or whether that's at a student fair or some other venue. But it's but I suppose that the balance shifts a little bit in favor of technology given our increasing reliance on digital channels, we might say. Okay. How are we doing? We've got a few minutes left. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up on all the questions. So someone points out that younger cohorts are avoiding social channels, or at least some social channels, right? You can see this, there's growth and decline across different channels. Do we think that people will avoid AI at some point? Will people privilege opportunities to step around AI agents or systems in favor of dealing with people? Is that a scenario that we should consider?
I mean, through it we do ask in our survey again about this, and about just over a third, well, a little bit more than a third, say that they're very comfortable with the use of AI in the process of applying to university. They're happy with AI-enabled chatbots as a way of getting information. Now that might seem like a small number, a third, but actually that's quite big in a survey. So if people are very much against something, you see much smaller numbers. So having over a third it means that they are increasingly comfortable, and we've seen that grow over a couple of years. So yeah, I think they are comfortable, and I think there's also a misconception about where students are getting their information. And I often talk about channels that students use, and I think, well, I ask the audience, where do you think students are finding out about doing research about your university? TikTok, this kind of thing. Actually, it's not. It's YouTube. It's been the king for ages. So enabling what already exists, enhancing what already exists. YouTube, and then they want to be contacted through WhatsApp. So yeah, the things that already exist, I think, are just a way of you contacting them in places that they're already native and they already feel comfortable with.
What do you see at the college? Yeah.
So I've got 2 daughters, and I don't think they're always in social media at all. They're 15 and 17, just maybe different types of social media. And I've also, my eldest daughter's just been on, she's on a kind of hybrid course, doing an athletics programme. Some of it's theory, where she has to do a lot online and webinars, and a couple of times a year they meet in person. She was a little bit about it, and then they went to their first camp last weekend, and she's come home all like completely enthusiastic, buzzing about it, really, really keen to get back. So just that, again, it's that balance between the online, the social media channels. She's using Teams to do her lessons, but the in-person 2 days they all spent together with the tutors has made a massive difference to them, and I think we need to remember that.
Yeah, you need to remember, I guess, just because you can do everything online doesn't mean you necessarily should all the time. I think, do we know enough about how students feel? Your research is telling you that students are not concerned about AI, or some percentage are comfortable with AI, like in an admissions process, even?
Yeah, we're asking them if they're comfortable with AI being used in the decision-making process for their application and the process of them getting to university, and over a third of them are comfortable.
Yeah, I think those are important indicators to pay attention to. Like there is, we've seen some early surveys that give some indication of how students feel about AI or their expectation for like AIs that they might encounter during the sort of inquiry or admissions process. But also some concern, I think, too, about relying, maybe to your point about bias, relying on those tools too much, and they're being concerned that they may not be fair. They might be more Tabitha than Thomas, like when the application process comes through. Okay. That familiar soundtrack is our clue that we're running out of time. So it's a very artful device that we're using this year. So let me just take a minute to thank you for a great discussion. I feel like that could have been a 3-hour workshop this afternoon. You're braced up for one tomorrow, I know, but that's but this was a great way to kind of find our way into the subject. So thanks very much to the panel and to everyone for your questions, and sorry we didn't get to more of them. But I think we've identified some important ways in which technology can play an important role, certainly at the front end of that student journey, and certainly in terms of smoothing out some of the real pain points and conversion throughout the process, identifying better prospects and ensuring that they stay engaged throughout that student path. Some good pointers there for us, but also some good pointers from the audience and from the panel that those factors of empathy, trust, developing that personal connection with the prospect are quite durable, right? So we are talking about striking that balance, I think.
Thank you. We need to change our name to Thomas.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Thomas. All right, thanks very much, everyone, and thank you for your attention.